Welcome to Takeaway with Sam Oches, a podcast for leaders of growing restaurant companies looking to take their businesses to the next level. In nearly 2 decades covering restaurants, I've gained access to some of this industry's most influential decision makers, and I'm letting you in on the conversations. In today's episode, you'll hear from an entrepreneur who successfully started a growing cheesesteak empire out of a suburban Atlanta gas station, and you'll find out how you can capitalize on a bright spotlight when it shines your way. Derrick Hayes is the founder and CEO of Big Dave's Cheesesteaks, a 9-unit franchise that has plans to become the next big thing in cheesesteaks. A native of West Philadelphia, Derrick opened Big Dave's 11 years ago inside a Dunwoody, Georgia gas station, turning it into a cult favorite with hours-long lines. His big break came when rapper and actress Eve visited Big Dave's and shared about it on her social channels, catapulting the brand to national renown and franchise opportunities. But don't confuse Big Dave's big moment for dumb luck. Derrick had meticulously designed the restaurant to be able to meet that moment, and the restaurant's high-quality product and service ensured that when the masses showed up, it would not be their last visit to Big Dave's. Derrick joined the podcast to talk about the determination and patience that were key to setting Big Dave's up for success, and about how his marriage to fellow restaurateur Pinky Cole has given him a fresh perspective on scaling a restaurant business. In this conversation, you will learn more about why your best chance at success is when you have an underlying purpose, how humble beginnings create strong foundations upon which you can build your business, and why patience is paramount to growing your business in the way it deserves. If you learned something from this episode, go follow Takeaway wherever you listen to podcasts and leave some feedback. It is the best way to get that lesson to a fellow restaurant leader. Jumping now into my conversation with Big Dave's founder and CEO, Derrick Hayes. Also, don't forget to stick around after the interview, as I will share my 4 takeaways from this conversation, actionable insights that you can take with you on the go. Okay, sitting down with Derrick Hayes, the founder and CEO of Big Dave's Cheesesteaks. Derrick, thanks for joining me today.
No, thank you for having me.
All right, so Derrick, I'm very excited to hear more about your story in launching this franchise concept. And it really, obviously, we have to go back to the days of growing up in West Philadelphia, as you own. I know it's right there on the bio, and of course, it's going to get that song right there in my head. But tell me about your life growing up and, becoming an entrepreneur. How did you become that person?
Well, I think I was born this person, not even knowing, growing up in Philadelphia, you got to be a hustler. I know a lot of days, as a kid, I was out shoveling, sidewalks, selling bean pies and newspapers, or going to the store for neighbors. So I've always done things to create money, but not understanding that I was an entrepreneur the whole time. I grew up in a 2-parent household. My mother and my father would work every day. So I seen my dad take care of family. I saw my grandfather take care of family. So in my life, I've saw, men stand up and be there for their family. So, me just organically growing up, understanding that, when I get older, I'm going to have a family of my own and I want to be the provider of my family. But, not knowing that food was going to be the thing that, triggers me to save my life. And I want to give thanks to my grandfather because, I talk a lot about my dad, honoring the business to him. But if the truth is, if I wouldn't have, the skills of cooking if it wasn't for my grandfather. In the summer times, I used to spend summers with my grandfather and my grandmother down in Athens, Georgia. And if I didn't go to church on Sunday, my grandfather said I would have to finish his Sunday dinner. Well, a lot of the times I didn't go to church, so I learned how to cook. But
sounds like a pretty good deal if you ask me.
Hey, sometimes in life, you never know what your calling is going to be. I love the philanthropy side of what I do, and I love the food side. But most of all, man, I like making people happy. I love seeing people smile. And throughout this journey, just me growing up as a kid, I always been that middle connector between my friends and, resources, and always wanted to dig in and learning things. And that's what this business has done for me over the years.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So let me get this right. Is it your grandfather or your father who is Big Dave?
So my father is Big Dave, and my grandfather's name was Troy P. Hayes. Okay. But my grandfather gave me the cooking skills, but I honored it to my dad because I wanted to make my dad proud. Growing up playing basketball, I seen my dad put a lot into my dream, and it didn't happen. So I wanted to make sure that I could honor him and, give him the benefits that he gave me. Even though he's not here, I promised him that I would make his name live on and make him more famous than he was when he was alive. And I was able to do those things.
That's incredible. Congrats to you. Tell me about cheesesteaks and your relationship with them. We all know cheesesteaks are like Philly's favorite food,
Yes.
The iconic food of Philadelphia. But I mean, were cheesesteaks, did you grow up eating them all the time?
I actually did grow up eating a lot of cheesesteaks, but let me tell you a funny story. My sister reminded me this a few months ago. She was like, "Do you remember why you got that slit over your eyebrow?" And I was like, "Yeah, you hit me in the head with a pool stick." I said, she was like, "Yeah, but do you remember why?" And I was like, "No, that's the thing. I can't remember why you hit me in the head." And she said, "You snatched the last piece of my cheesesteak and ate it." And I'm just like, what are the odds? Cheesesteak, I get busted my head with a pool stick, and the cheesesteak wound up saving my life. So, those are the things that's the beautiful side of what I do. A lot of people resonate off my story. I have a good product, and, I believe in everything that I'm doing. But most of all, I want people to understand that they're not stuck. If you want to chase entrepreneurship, if you want to chase being your own boss, and I don't even like saying being your own boss, because I feel like, putting a formation of a team together is going to take a team effort to do things, but just being the right leader will get you across the finish line. And I want to be that representation of, allowing people to see what it looks like coming from a lower income community, what it looks like coming from poverty, what it looks like you're not having many resources. If you stick hard at something, you can get it too.
That's awesome. Let's talk about then opening that first restaurant. You opened it in 700 square feet in a gas station outside of Atlanta. What led to you opening this restaurant? Because, I mean, I'm curious where you were at in life when you opened it. Was this a dream you'd had for a long time, or was it just kind of a right place at the right time?
It was a dream that I had, but I would still say right place at right time, because I was trying to get locations all around Atlanta to lease me spaces, and a lot of people kept saying that I don't have any business experience. But what a lot of people didn't understand, this wasn't a money grab for me. This was a mission. I finally found my purpose. So I'm going to be honest with you. This business raised me. It's the other half of my father. Like I lost my dad at 21. So I'm 38 now. So a lot of years been influenced and matured through this business, or I wasn't able to be here today. So I say that this business has allowed me to grow my wings and also give me my purpose. I don't think anybody can do anything in life if they don't find purpose. It won't be tangible. It won't be, meaningful. It'll just be a money grab. And I think when people look at Big Dave's, they look at the whole picture of everything that I've been doing. I show you the good, bad, and the ugly. And that gas station gave me all of the uglies, but ended up being good, because I remember having an extension cord across the floor to keep my refrigeration running. One of my fryers was hot wired into the wall. My grill would work half of the time. So I like to say, it's not about what you have, it's what you do with it while God give it to you. And I was able to take the little and make it a lot. And at that time, I was in a very dark place. I just had lost my father. I was going through a personal injury. I had a lot of stress on me, a lot of pain on me. There was a lot of people saying that, I was too far from the city. This is not going to work. So I had a lot of doubters, but it just charged my battery. I'm the type person, I'm probably like a little different than most individuals. When people say that, you can't do something, it charges me. Like it makes me say, I'm going to show you, but I'm really not doing it for the sake of them. I'm doing it because I know I can do it and it can be done. And I like to dream, and I also like to put the work in. So that gas station allowed me to prove that the model can work. The dream is real. And it's going to continue to happen as long as I keep putting in my forefront of making it happen. It's just like running a marathon. As long as you condition for it and keep running, you'll get there.
Great point. I'm curious too, had you been looking for a space for a while and this was just the best option, or was it kind of like happenstance? It became available and you're like, yeah, I'm going to open a cheesesteak brand there.
All right. So I tell you what, I'm going to make it plain and simple. Say you was doing the Series A raise, right? And nobody won't fund you. And then you got payroll coming and you got all these bills coming, and the worst deal that you don't want to take, you got to take it out of being desperate. That's exactly happened with me in this gas station. I didn't want the location. I kept hearing it was too far from the city. Nobody was going to come. But I'm like, you know what? I got to take this and see what I can make out of this, because I know me. I know that if I market it right and I represent it right, it'll represent me the way I want it to. And I proved that, you don't have to start off shiny. I mean, I spent 5 years in there and I never had a sign. I had a banner hanging off sideways half of the time. Let me tell you, I
Mm-hmm.
would have people driving hours and waiting hours in line for this location. You know the sliding doors when you walk in a grocery store that opens up?
Yep.
Well, mine's broke, and I had my contractor put a handle on it, and they just used to just slide it on back every time they walk in the door. So I had a broken door, I had poor electricity, I had a broken grill and a fryer, and I did this with two big guys that weighed probably 350 pounds plus
Mm-hmm.
inside of a 749 square foot gas station. But the wall of the stove and the grill probably was about 20, maybe 2 feet, maybe at most, so like we used to have to walk past each other like, hey, you go ahead, you go in front of me, and I'll allow you to go in front of me. So like Ray Kroc said, footsteps cost millions, and that proved that it do, because I was able to learn how to build kitchens off of that kitchen, because all of my kitchens are shotgun style, but you don't have to take any footsteps. It's all in front of you. Like when you're on my grill, you pull out the refrigeration, the steak right there, the vegetables are right there. So it taught me.
Yeah, so it forced you into having an efficient model from the jump,
Yes,
right?
it did. It taught me. It taught me a lot of things, and it also taught me too that the customers will stick with you as long as that you got good customer service and a product. It don't matter how raggedy you look. They know that you're trying for the first time at something, and they want to support you. I mean, look,
Right.
America loves a rags to the riches story.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. Well, and I imagine too, this is helping with your marketing to some degree. There's a little bit like you have to know. It's like, oh, you'll never believe the best cheesesteak is it randomly in this.
Yeah, in the gas station. So to speak to your point,
Mm.
I don't think that I would have been as big as I am now if I didn't start in that gas station.
Mm.
I think if I would have started in a like a location I am now, like down in Atlanta, I don't think it would have been as special, because what was special about when I started was I started in something that was, I mean, I'll be honest, it was a shithole. It was a clean one, but it was a shithole. It was something that I had to take and polish it up. And I think when people actually seen it and they were like, wow, this is Big Dave's, and then they tasted it, it was like, oh, I see why. Or they'll pull up and see the lines. I used to have people say, I'll wait 2 or 3 hours. I'll just be back. I'll put my order in. And they'll literally come back later in the evening and pick their food up. I mean, I had a 3-foot grill and one fryer when I was doing 400 or 500 tickets out there a day. So it's like, how can you not have weights when you only got this little bit of, cooking equipment to cook on? But when I was able to get out of that location and get to my flagship location that I just closed, which was 57 Forsyth Street, that location was massive for me because the whole city was waiting for me to come. Sometimes you have to build out to get love in. If you build in, sometimes you won't get love in front of the people's faces because they don't see how special you are right in front of them. But if you build out, sometimes that allows people to see how special you are because they get to put the lens right on you to say, hey, this is a business outside the city that's killing it versus, thousands of businesses doing, similar things that you're doing inside your conglomerate in your city.
That's well put. There's a little bit of an adventure to it too,
Yeah.
going to find that great cheesesteak. Okay, so am I to understand this correctly that your kind of breakout moment is when Eve discovers your food, the singer performer Eve.
Yes.
Tell me about that moment and what it did for the Big Dave's brand.
Well, before I tell you the story, I'll tell you the moment changed my life because it showed me later on in life whenever I was going to get the torch to be there for others the same way that she did for me, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say I waited for her literally all day like a kid on Christmas, man. And she never showed up. My brother was cool with a friend of hers, and she was shooting barbershop, and she missed, cheesesteak. She hadn't had one in a while, and I was sitting there waiting, and she never showed up. But she did come later on in that week. And I like to say, no matter what things happen in life, always be ready for your moment. And I couldn't even make payroll that Friday. I remember I had 2 employees at the time, and I was making that chicken cheesesteak like my life depended on it, and I was talking to myself literally. I'm like, man, you don't choke now, because my grills are now faced to the customer. It used to be faced to the wall, so I could actually just not look at the customer.
Yeah.
So the whole time I'm making it, I'm like, man, you better make this one better than you ever made, because I wanted to give somebody with a lot of exposure, a lot of popularity, something that they can, be excited about to spread the word. I didn't ask her to post it or anything. When she bid it, she went crazy. Next thing you know, I had 500 people in the parking lot, the next day. And I'm like, what am I going to do now? Because you can ask for the traffic and not be ready for it. So I remember having my little cousin run back and forth from Restaurant Depot getting steak all day long. Like, Sam, I know a lot of people say they built businesses out the mud, and they started from nothing. But like, I started this business with one case of steak. I sell 50,000 plus sandwiches a month right now.
Wow.
So, this is an American dream. This is a true testimony that if you stick to things and you work hard, things can happen in your life. And I ain't do this by myself. I did this with my soldiers. I like to always bring up my team with me because they in here every day making customers happy. And I'm the mascot now. I'm the person, the visionary that's seeing this whole thing through. But a lot of my days look like me talking in board meetings or coming up with, more opportunities for the brand or being in front of the camera. So
Sure.
A lot of their days still is in the kitchen, making sure the product is still, the right way that it was since day one, and also scaling the culture. So you can't do this alone. I used to say I, now it's we. It's always about we. We win, I lose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What you said about meeting your moment, being ready for your moment, I think is so important. I think about restaurants, for example, that get featured by somebody like a Keith Lee or another influencer, because he'll come feature their restaurant, and then the next day there's a line around the block. They sell out of food in a couple hours. But for a lot of businesses, that's just a temporary pop. That's just they have a couple of days where it's big, and then life moves on. You mentioned kind of meeting that moment. How did you embrace it and not let it be just a temporary pop? But you said, this is going to be Big Dave's moment.
Well, you have to take advantage of the moment. I knew that I was waiting for that moment. It was already like a year and a half I've been in business. I was slow, wasn't making money. I was just waiting for that moment to come. And you are right. A lot of business get that pop and they go away because, for me, I learned over the years, the celebrity, the influencer is good, but the everyday American is better. I want the everyday worker to believe in my brand and to make sure they support my brand versus a celebrity, or icon, a legend, or whatever you want to call it, because you'll get that pop for a week or two and then it go away. But if you got that consistency going on with your company where you got the average American coming in supporting you, your tickets will always be up, your AUVs will always be good, and you'll be able to keep scaling your brand. It's good to have a pop, of somebody coming in, that can, draw some crowds and get you some extra funds to come in. But you want to be able to take advantage of that and keep the business going forward. And the way you do that is to already have a name, already, be known for, customer service, already known for a good product. But most of all, the culture of it got to stand, a lot of companies, I'm an African American, but I don't have just an African American brand. I have an American brand. I have multiple cultures that support this brand. I am for the people. I raised my team to understand that we are for the people. And I think when people see that you're for the people, you'll have a whole conglomerate of a lot of people supporting you over time, whether it's coming to see you 2 times out of a month versus 1 time out of a month, so you just giving that little extra pops in. How's your day going? I hope your day goes better. Those things help you continue to scale. And I think when people get those big pops, they're like, hey, just take your food and go, because they're so excited about having that moment, but not forgetting that you want that customer to come back. Mm-hmm. That one customer that you just gave the food and say, hey, go, now it's not going to come back to your establishment because they understand that, for one, you were rude to them. 2, you might not wanted to be rude to them. You didn't understand the traffic volume, so you're not used to it, so you and your team are going into a panic instead of just woosah and taking your time to say, I want to make sure that every order is right, not only if the ticket time is longer, but I'll understand I'll come back because I knew you were busy versus having a bad experience just saying, hey, take your food and it's not right.
Yeah, I love that. It's so smart. I mean, because you're right. You could bungle that moment very, very easily if you were not prepared for it. Tell me then what comes in the wake of this. You have your moment. Does all the growth just kind of naturally flow from there? Tell me about the couple of years after Eve's visit. What that looked like.
Yes, the growth started, naturally flowing, but also I was allowing people to know who I was. I was doing a lot of community service work, a lot of philanthropy work, a lot of just allowing people to understand what I was building. See, it's like this, right? It's like you seen Michael Jordan hit game winners, but they'd be like, oh, Mike hit a game winner on the last game. But when Mike won a championship, you ain't going to never forget about a championship. So when I opened stores, that was my championship. So that allowed people to understand that, oh, this guy's not playing. He's here to stay. Me as a small-owned business now to a national brand, I still haven't taken Series A funding yet. So I'm doing something that's never been done the way that I'm doing it. And I know that it's aggravating the industry some because you got guys that, got all these degrees, and then you got cooks that went to school, cordon blues, and all these things. I'm just a street guy with a high school diploma that built a multi-million-dollar business my way. And I did it out of the heart of how I was born. I'm a vessel. I know that I was here to uplift people and connect people. And I think people resonate to that. And that's how I was able to show people that this is just not a popular brand. This is a scalable brand. And now this is a franchise brand.
Right. Okay, so you did decide to franchise. I have to take a pause here, though, and take a step back and ask you about the product. Because, again, I'm from Ohio. A cheesesteak to me, I have a lower standard probably than what somebody from Philadelphia has, right?
From Ohio, too.
So not to say we don't have a good palate, but it's just to say, like, if I have a cheesesteak, my bar is kind of low. But to you, what makes a great cheesesteak? What is the Big Dave's cheesesteak?
First, I'm gonna start off with the bread. The bread that we use is a marriage. It's from Philly. It's an Amoroso roll. It's unmatched. You can't replace it. A lot of people try to do it, and then all these new cheesesteaks come in with these poppy seeds on them. That's not a real cheesesteak. That's something that people are trying to create to say that they're reimagining whatever a cheesesteak looks like. But an authentic cheesesteak is gonna be an Amoroso roll. You could use sirloin, ribeye, or a mixture of your choice. The cheese is very important. Of course, if you're doing provolone or American or Whiz, all three of those cheeses are something that makes a real cheesesteak. But for us, that made our cheesesteak authentic is the seasoning I was able to create through my father, my grandfather, my mother. And that was the Big Dave spice. And that's what gives us the differentiate all the other companies that's out. Now, when you say the bar is low, when you come to Big Dave's, you'll always know that the bar was definitely low in Ohio. but you'll understand that you'll be able to get a real cheesesteak. But I like what you said. You see how you said the bar is low and you live in Ohio? But what if nobody has to experience that? Because I'm going to put Big Dave's all over the country, and they're going to understand that I can get a real authentic cheesesteak, and I don't have to go to Philadelphia. I can be in Atlanta. I can be in Chicago. I can be in Texas. I can be in Vegas. I can be in L.A., and I'm still going to be able to know what a real Philadelphian is like to eat a cheesesteak, because that is what I represent, the taste of Philly.
Yeah, sure. All right, and you're doing this through franchising.
Yes.
Tell me about that decision to franchise, because as you mentioned, you didn't raise at all. You decided that you're going to grow through other people's capital, which makes a ton of sense. Why was that right for the Big Dave's brand?
Well, I always wanted to franchise when I first started this. I built this to franchise this business. Of course, it's not easy to franchise. It took me over 10 years to get systems in place, order in demand, procedures, SOP manuals, all those things that make you a franchise. But I just wanted to give people opportunities off of something I love to be able to provide for their families. In America right now, we grow up and, they say, go to college, go get a job, take care of your family, but they don't really raise you to be an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. They don't really tell you that you can open up something and you can have a family. You and your partner can actually tag team and actually work this thing out and create wealth that way if something is a proven concept. And I always wanted to give people an opportunity to be a leader, a boss. And there's nothing wrong with, people coming in, as an everyday American punching the clock. But I wanted to give people an opportunity to be able to spread their wings if, they thought that they could do something. They thought they could be an operator. Now, what I will say is this. Right now, I'm not franchising to just anyone at this stage I'm in. I'm only franchising to, multi-unit operators and people that, can follow procedures and have business experience, because I am a new franchise. And, of course, I can't put out bad boxes in the beginning because that will hurt me in the end. So right now, yes, I am an emerging brand, so I have to move like one. So a lot of our skill sets is always procedures first versus, the way you feel in your heart and your gut. I used to lead off my gut a lot and my heart, but now it has to go off a system so that we keep repeating things so that we can put procedures in place so that we can be able to scale other people's, wishes and dreams for the brand of Big Dave Cheesesteaks.
Well, I have to imagine, too, going back to that first model in the gas station and building something very efficient from the get-go, that must be really appealing to franchisees because they want a simple business. They want to make money with as little effort as possible.
Yes.
So I imagine you get a lot of inbound from people
yes,
who are interested.
I right now probably turn down about 30 franchisees a week. I wish I could say yes. Yeah. We're very strict on how we operate and do business and how you pass the procedures. If you make it to Discovery Day is a real big thing for us because before you leave that table, I'm going to ask you, how can you help scale this brand and bring opportunity without your money? And I need that answered the way that it feels in my heart because I don't want to do business just off of money, because if it's just off of money, when the economy is bad, it'll always just be money. We got to know how to pivot and come together as a whole on how to keep the wheels going so that we can keep scaling together versus you panicking because something is different in an economy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You mentioned talking about growing around the country. And it's funny because, I did mention Ohio. Now, Ohio is actually home to 2 Philly cheesesteak chains.
I'm coming to Ohio. I already know you coming to my Charlie's.
Oh, I was going to say, because we got Charlie's. There was one from, I think it's still around Great Steak.
Yeah.
It's not around anymore. The point is that like, and I won't comment. I won't comment on the bar on those two concepts. I'll just leave it as it is. Yeah. But it's mostly just to say, why is it that Philly cheesesteaks have not taken off in a big way at that multi-unit scaled level?
To be honest, because in Philly they didn't find out how to be profitable. I did. A lot of these places are just popular with lines. If you're just slapping pounds of meat on a roll, there's no way you're making money. We was able to streamline everything and make it profitable. And I was able to do that without compromising the product. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the hard thing to do for a Philadelphian to spread their units so wide, is because they felt like they would hurt their product, because if it go outside the tri-state, it might not be as authentic. But now you're looking at somebody that started outside the tri-state that now grew national attention off of having something authentic and was able to scale it. So I think me being the first to do it this way is draw a different eyes on the market. If you look around, you got 1,000 mom and pops now open up cheesesteaks concepts left and right, because it's off the vision of what they seen that I did. I am the biggest trendsetter in the cheesesteak market right now. And no disrespect to Charlie's at all. They probably 700-800 stores in. But I am the biggest trendsetter in the cheesesteak market right now. And we're coming to knock everybody down. So everybody better get ready.
There you go. I like that. All right, I want to ask too about sort of the personality of your brand. So to tell a little story, a couple episodes ago on the podcast, I had the president of Barry Bagels, who is the son of Barry, and Barry has passed. But there's a lot of there's a lot of parallels between your two brands, because here's a brand named after the father, and the son is running the business. Now in Barry Bagels' case, Barry was the founder, but Barry is kind of imbued throughout that brand. He's sort of the face of it. Of course, he's the name of it. And similar thing here for you and your father and Big Dave. And I'm just curious, how do you imbue the spirit of your father into this brand?
If it wasn't for my father, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you, Sam, because anytime that I wanted to give up, it's like a little voice that I hear from my father to say, you almost there. It ain't supposed to be easy. Keep going. We almost there. Keep going. As long as I can hear that we almost there, keep going, I'm never going to stop. And I think that's what's special about it. But also, I'm not, this whole mission started from my father, but now I got a bunch of kids and people looking at me from all around the world. So now it ain't about me. If they see me quit, if they see me fail, I might discourage them from wanting to do the things that they started to believe in. So, being a trendsetter and having all this pressure on you ain't easy. But I was born for this. I was destined for this, and I love it. It's pressure that keeps me on my toes. I don't waste time. Every single day I'm out chasing my career. I don't party. I don't do the things that I used to do that made me, less focused or distracted. Right now it's all about scale. It's all about the mission that I'm on. And it's all about making this a legacy and unicorn brand.
Sure. Speaking of family and your kids, we got to take a moment to talk about your wife. I mean, This is a rare moment where perhaps more people listening right now are familiar with your wife than you.
Yeah.
Of course, Pinky Cole of Slutty Vegan, she's made her own waves for the last several years with her own concept, her own business. Tell me what that's like to be married to another restaurateur and entrepreneur.
It's amazing because, for one, we don't judge each other, because when you're in a relationship and you're always busy and you're always doing things, your significant other might not realize what it takes to do those things, and it can also hurt your relationship. With us, we both understand what it takes to get there, and what we most happy about, we get to look at each other's numbers to see how the market's trending. We get to piggyback off each other. Like she scaled faster than I did, and then I wound up scaling more than she did in a franchise concept. So now she's able to now look at the franchise model that I'm doing and learn from that, just like I learned from when she left to go to different states before I did. So it's a beautiful conglomerate together with our household. Sometimes it's not easy because one might be doing good and one might not be doing good. she just went through a restructuring in her company, and I was having the biggest moments of my career while she was doing that. So it took a lot of understanding, a lot of stuff that I wanted to be super happy about that I had going on in my career. I didn't really know how to be happy, rejoicing it to her. But she was always happy for me. Like when I ranked number 6 in fast casual, she was crying. She was there clapping for me. So we have each other back. We understand what the mission is going to take. And I know that God put us together for this road that we're on.
That's great. Are there plans for you guys to do align the brands at all, to work together, to scale together, anything like that?
Hayes Hospitality, baby, it's coming.
Okay. Tell me more about that.
So basically, Hayes Hospitality, we're talking about, mothering the brands, making how you look at the Arby's group, how you look at Inspired Brands, any of those big companies. We're just looking at a way to grow our hospitality spaces, whether it's Big Dave, Slutty Vegan, Bar Vegan. I got a new concept that I've been playing around with called Sea Boys. It's a seafood concept. But my main focus right now is on Big Dave's, just like hers is on Slutty. But we're working on, seeing how that marriage can look, in a few years, once everything is all the way back together the way we want it to.
Sure.
But we got a plan and a mission that's going to knock QSR space down, because a lot of people, they can't understand how we're always in the media and how we always get the information out. That's because we're authentic what we do. And I don't think the world has seen that,
Yeah.
Sometimes being unpolished make you more shiny.
Oh, that's great. I want to ask too about, your role as a Black entrepreneur, you and Pinky both, because, Derrick, I'm just back from our event for emerging restaurateurs, and it's as you could expect any restaurant conference to be. There's not the same diversity that we know is out there in the restaurant industry, and certainly among the consumer. You and Pinky have this great platform, and I know you guys are leaning into it to show other Black entrepreneurs what is possible. Can you tell me about that? Tell me about your work in showing other entrepreneurs how they could have this same, success that you do.
Well, it's almost like, to be honest, it's almost like a draft pick, right? It's almost like me and Pinky was selected in this draft pick to represent the African-American entrepreneurs, I believe. I believe that's the way that it's been for the last few years. But, we also know that when we walk in rooms that don't look like us, we also walking in for millions and millions of people who want opportunity. And we know if we do it right, they'll get opportunity later. I like to say this, it's not a color thing. I think it's a cultural difference. It's an upbringing difference. It's a misunderstanding. I've been in a lot of rooms that read me wrong, and then I start talking, and you're like, oh, man, I can see the shift already, and I'm okay with that because I have thick skin. But I also know that if I wasn't an African-American, I would have already been global with everything that I have going on, too. It sucks, but I'm not going to cry over spoiled milk. I'm going to keep on hustling, keep on grinding for everybody that's watching to get motivated. And she's doing the same thing. Right now I'm in the middle of my Series A raise. It hasn't been easy because I want to pick the right partners. I want to pick the right people that believe. I'm very patient. I fish a lot. I like to tell people, if you fish, you can swim in life. You can win, because sometimes when you throw your line out, right, you got your bait on the line, you don't always catch a fish. You can fish for 3 and 4 hours a day and might not get one bite, or you might get the bite. That's like having an investor on your line, but not take the bait, and then he's off the line.
Right.
But it teaches you so many things in life. And I think for me, fishing taught me how to grow my brand, because I haven't always caught a fish. And sometimes I caught a big fish and went to go eat the fish, and it was too old to eat. So it's like sometimes when you do catch the fish, it wasn't the right one to catch. So you gotta know what's for you, and I know what's for me. And anybody that joins me in this brand is going to join a legacy unicorn brand. We're going to be looked upon like the Shake Shacks, the Five Guys, the McDonald's, all of these places, because I got the AUVs, I got the systems, and I got the scale, and I got the culture. I got all of those things working out for me right now, and being able to piggyback off my wife and being able to help her and she helped me, and we do the same. I think that's what's going to make it special. Look, you can look at anything that happened in life that was good for anybody that had roller coaster rides.
Yeah.
Ray Kroc bought McDonald's for $2 million now. I think they make like $19 billion a year or something like that. So it's like when you look at those odds, people didn't believe that, you can give somebody a hamburger in a minute and it'd be worth something later. Just like people don't see how you can scale a cheesesteak brand to a national brand, but they're watching me do it right now. So it's all about what you show people and what they believe later. Sure. Everybody not going to always believe in the mission in the beginning until you show them.
Right. What I think is so great about your story is how much you've embraced your role as the leader of this brand. Look, I've talked to hundreds, if not thousands, of founders over the years, and this can be a thankless job. It's hard, as you know. But there is something about that founder that is the beating heart of the brand, and getting yourself out there, putting yourself out there is one of the best things that you can do because you communicate that heart and soul to the
Yep.
consumer, to the investor, to the industry. What I want to turn that into a question, what I want to ask you is, for others who are maybe just starting out, that are maybe founding their brands or just sort of young entrepreneurs, what is your advice to them?
Learn your business and take your time. Study. Don't rush to just get the sales. Don't rush to put your product out. You want to be able to create profitability out of that good taste or
Mhm.
that good business. You want to be able to sit at tables with anybody and understand the language versus it being ignorant. Because let me tell you something, there's a lot of sharks out here. And when you sit at tables and they know you got a good product and they know you don't know what you're doing, they're going to angle you. Your operating agreement won't be fair. Your percentages won't be fair. All of those things won't be fair because you didn't study your craft and understand your concept. When you understand your concept and you got the education of what you're pitching, you'll get treated different. And also, you'll be able to hire people. You'll be able to open more locations because you'll understand how you create scalability and create profitability in your brand. Don't rush. I always like to say this: life is not a track meet; it's a marathon. Run your race. It's all about how you in and stay in your lane because somebody else's lane is going to look a lot different from your lane, and everybody else wins won't look like your wins, and everybody else losses won't look like your losses.
Hmm.
I mean, Sam, look how many times I pitched to you about what I want. You know, I go for what I want.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's great advice, by the way. Last question for you, Derrick. What is next for Big Dave's? Obviously, you guys are really, I would say, on the cusp, but you've made it. I mean, you're here,
Yeah.
you've got people's attention, but still bigger things to come. Tell us what's
Yes.
next.
So what's next is my franchisee. We're doing Greenville, South Carolina. That's in build out stages right now. I just announced the Georgia World Congress Center, which I'm really happy about because when the World Cup come, you're going to be able to get me in this location that's in the flagship downtown Marietta Street and the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And then next door is the Georgia World Congress Center. And we got billboards around the city. So I'm getting ready for that. That's a really big opportunity for the brand to be able to be, known globally with a lot of those people coming, into the United States.
Yeah.
And then what I'm most proud about right now, I mean, this makes me emotional. What I'm about to tell you, I worked 10 years, man, just working on this one thing. My egg rolls.
Mm.
My egg rolls are now about to go into mass production to where we don't have to roll them inside the restaurants anymore. So I'm gonna be able to put them in the sports arenas. I'm gonna be able to put them in all the locations. And most of all, it's all about scaling the brand. I'm gonna be able to make the boxes 200,000. I'm sorry, 200, not 200,000, 200 square feet less, and we're able to sell 100. I mean, save about 150 to 200,000 per box on this egg roll move. So it's a wonderful thing all the way around. As a franchisee, of course, they want to be able to build boxes for a cheaper cost,
Hmm.
and also be able to get a consistent product all the way through. Is now that cheesesteak egg roll, and I'm really happy about that.
Very exciting. Congrats on that. Derrick Hayes,
Yes.
founder and CEO of Big Dave's Cheesesteaks. Really appreciate your time today, Derrick.
No,
Thanks so
thank you,
much.
Sam. I appreciate you. Third time was a charm, man. Thank
Third
you.
time's a charm. That was my interview with Big Dave's founder and CEO, Derrick Hayes. So, what should you learn from this interview? Here are my 4 takeaways. My first takeaway is that your best chance at success is when you have an underlying purpose. I love Derrick's story. I love the story of how he was inspired by his father, his late father, who the business is named after. He was inspired by his grandfather. He discovered early on that he could be a leader and an entrepreneur. He had a dream, a vision for what Big Dave's could be, and he stuck to it. And he has been grinding now for over a decade to make this business a success. And it has indeed become what should be a national success. But without that purpose, if it was just a cash grab, as Derrick said, he would not have that same kind of success, because at the end of the day, a restaurant needs a heart and a soul. It needs a purpose because customers really resonate with that purpose. That purpose shines through the menu. It shines through the service. It shines through the ambiance of the restaurant. Derrick has imbued this brand with that purpose of honoring his father and grandfather and honoring that great food of his native Philadelphia through Big Dave's, and with that purpose as kind of underlying the undertone of everything that Big Dave's does, he is finding success. When you start a restaurant in a gas station, the odds are against you. Finding customers, being able to successfully operate in a 700 square foot space like he has, that is really difficult to do. And for years, Derrick was grinding to make this a success. But because he had that purpose behind him, it kept pushing him. And eventually things started to break his way to the point now where he is this success. My second takeaway is that humble beginnings create strong foundations upon which you can build your business. Again, not to put too fine a point on this, but Big Dave's started in a 700 square foot space in a gas station in suburban Atlanta. Probably a lot of you, if you are a restaurant founder, or if you want to start a restaurant, or if you've been a part of a team that started a restaurant, you are thinking about that A-plus real estate. You want that, downtown or great development, with lots of foot traffic, that real estate that's really going to put your brand on the map. That's what you're thinking about when you open a restaurant, especially if you want to start a restaurant on the right foot. And Derrick had a 700 square foot space in a gas station. He says, he didn't want it, but he felt like it was all he had. It was his last chance to get his dream, to bring his dream to life in Big Dave's. And so he did it. And again, he hustled. He worked hard to make it a success. He talked about all the efficiencies that he and his team figured out by operating in such a small space. He also really learned a lesson about how to capitalize on a unique location such as a gas station and tap into marketing efforts to build that sort of cult status that he had within Atlanta and beyond. He worked hard, in other words, to create something special. And he succeeded at that. He admits, Derrick says, he's like, if they had opened their first location in downtown Atlanta in a big box, great prime walking traffic location, it wouldn't have become the same Big Dave's that you have today. Almost like it would be too easy, and they wouldn't have had to fight hard to make it something special, which is what they did in the gas station locations. The point being, again, is that when you start in a humble situation like that, it kind of compare it to, as Derrick said in the interview, compare it to like this rags to riches story. When you start humbly with not much, you don't have a great location, you don't have a lot to work with, maybe your team is stretched pretty thin, you have to work hard day in and day out. But when you start there, when you find that success, it's all the more special. And also, by the way, you can actually really lean into that as a differentiator in your marketing, which Big Dave's clearly does. You can lean into it in a differentiator in your culture. Derrick has built a team now that I think remembers what it was like to run in a gas station. In a lot of different ways, it makes you a better restaurant operator. So if you are operating something that's a little bit more humble than that A-plus real estate, do not fret, because you too can make it a big success. You just have to work a little bit harder. But the foundation, when you get past this season, the foundation, I think, is going to be even stronger for you to build that bigger business in the future. My third takeaway is that your big break could come at any moment, and you have to be ready for it. So, of course, that big break for Derrick and for Big Dave's was when the rapper and actress Eve visited the Big Dave's in the gas station. Eve is from Philadelphia, and as Derrick shared, she's a big fan of cheesesteaks. She wanted a great cheesesteak, and she heard that Big Dave's was where you go to get it. She showed up, she got the cheesesteak, she shared it on her social, and the rest, as they say, is history. Big Dave's was on the map. But as I mentioned in the intro, that's not just dumb luck. Derrick didn't stumble into this success and, it just the success just ran away and he was just lucky and that it just worked out that way. No. Derrick talked about the fact that before Eve ever showed up, he had been working on the Big Dave's brand for a year and a half to that point, and he'd been ensuring that the product was great, that the service was great, that the operation was tight. And so when Eve did show up, he was able to capitalize. If Big Dave's was a lousy brand that just happened to have a good sandwich, if the service wasn't good, the operations weren't good, and if Eve wasn't satisfied, A, she might not have shared that on her social. But B, I think more importantly, when she did share it on her social and the masses came to visit Big Dave's and see what it was all about, they were greeted with good service and a good product, and they came back. So that's the point here, because especially in this age of influencers, you have the Keith Lees of the world, other influencers who show up and they put your restaurant on the map. If you cannot meet that moment, if you cannot provide a good product or good service or a good experience, then influencer might not share about it. But more importantly, when the influencer does share about it and the masses arrive, if they don't like the experience they have, they're not going to come back and it's all going to dissipate. So you have to be ready to capitalize on that big moment when it comes for you. And that's what Derrick has done for Big Dave's. He used that as a stepping stone to bigger things. That national renown that came, he's been able to use that to launching a franchise program and getting Big Dave's into more communities across the Southeast. My fourth and final takeaway is that patience is paramount to growing the business the way it deserves. Derrick has been a patient operator, a patient entrepreneur now for 11 years. And really, he's starting to get his due. But he talked a lot throughout the interview about this idea that, you have to really wait for your moment and not jump at any opportunity that comes your way. He used the fishing analogy, which I thought was a great one to explain this. He said he casts his line. He's a fisherman, he said, and he'll cast his line, and it might go 3 or 4 hours without catching a fish. And just as much as that, as a restaurant operator, if you want to, for example, raise money to invest in your business, you might cast a line out for investors. And you might not get anybody, and that's okay. You have to be patient and wait for that fish to come. Simultaneously, using a similar metaphor of sharks, Derrick made the point that over the years, he's had to really be a student of the industry, a student of the business. He's had to understand profitability and operations and how this industry works, because he said if he wasn't patient in learning this industry, there are sharks out there who would come and take advantage of him and steer Big Dave's off into the wrong direction. Whereas he did put in that time, he had that patience to be a student of the industry, to understand how things work. And as such, he's not been taken advantage of. He's really been able to capitalize on the opportunities when they came for him, when they were those right opportunities. So the point is it might appeal to you to run after every opportunity that comes your way. You might want to take every check that an investor waves at you. You might not want to rush. You might want to rush your business to becoming a success as quickly as it can be. But if you don't take the time to build a great business with a great experience and a great product, if you don't take the time to learn this industry and get to know how it all works and who all the right players are, if you don't make that patience and make that space and be patient to wait on that right investor and partner who can really benefit your business, it might go astray and you might not be able to build the business that you want. Those are all my takeaways for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to subscribe to Takeaway wherever you listen to podcasts and leave your feedback. You can also email me at sam.oches@informa.com. Thanks again, and talk to you next week.